Okay, some of you guys wanted me to do number 2 on yesterday's 2019 free response. So we want to draw a correctly labeled Phillips curve. So you've got unemployment on the X and inflation on the Y. You've got long run Phillips curve here, and this would be 4% unemployment because they said the natural rate is 4%. And then you've got short run Phillips curve, right? And this would be 3% and 4%. That's where they're telling you this is the expected rate of inflation and this is the natural rate of unemployment. So this is where we are. So essentially, if we were drawing an ADAS graph, if we were drawing an SRAS graph, this would be 4%, and this would be 3%. That would be if we were in full employment output. Okay, so that would be the first part of it. All right, and so we're actually going to be right here. We'll call this point B, where this is 6%. Right, because it tells us unemployment is at 6%. So, and then the inflation rate is, I don't know what it is. It's definitely less than 3% because it's lower, right? So, essentially what we're saying is we are in a recession. We're in a recessionary state. So this is SRAS. Here is, LRAS. And then here's our current output. Here's our current price level, but this would be our price level. This would be our 3% here, and this would be our 4%. Instead, this is our 6%. If this is an ADAS graph, this is what it's going to look like, right? We're in a recessionary state, okay? So it says is the actual, so this would be A, is the actual inflation rate greater than, less than, or equal to 3%? Well, you can see if we're sitting here at point B, or the actual unemployment, then it's going to actually make inflation be less than, so it's lower on the SRPC curve. C, assume loans were taken into account and the expected rate of inflation is 3%. Will the lender be better off, worse off now that this is different? So if you are a lender, and another word for lender would be creditor, you want a decrease in inflation, right? If you're a debtor, you want an increase in inflation. Remember, when it comes to interest rates, real equals nominal minus inflation, right? So like I said before, if this is 7% and it's 3%, right? If expected rate's 3%, then your real interest rate's 4. But if it's 7% is your nominal interest rate, what the bank charges you is 7%, and the actual is 2%, then your real interest rate that you're getting is 5%. If you're a lender, that's great. If you're a debtor, then that's bad. Creditors want high interest rates and low inflation. Debtors want low interest rates and a little bit of inflation to keep this real interest rate down. So C would be creditors or lenders would be better off, and just for our knowledge, debtors would be worse off with a lower rate of inflation. Then it says, based on the relationship between the actual and expected, what's going to happen in the long run? So in the long run, let's go back to our ADAS graph. When we do Phillips curve, I always just do the aggregate demand, aggregate supply graph, and then figure out what's going to happen, and then just plot it on the Phillips curve. So we know we're sitting here in a recession, and if we do nothing, we know that there is a downward pressure on wages while we're in a recession, and downward pressure on wages. Wages are an input cost, which is a supply issue. So supply will shift this way, right? So the price goes down even more. Okay, and that means if we have a shift to the right on the supply of the SRAS curve, or the short aggregate supply curve, it's a shift left. Remember, they're in the Phillips curve to go in opposite directions. And so now we've got, SRPC2 and we have a lower inflation rate, and we're back to the unemployment rate of the natural rate. So that would be number 2 for yesterday's assignment. And let me post this on YouTube.